Hello everyone, I'm Jim Schakowsky, owner of Lubecore, Minnesota. Today we're here looking at a Towmaster Plow Truck. For those of you that are not familiar with the type of work we do, we sell, service, and support automated lubrication systems. And what the autolube system is we can walk and show you here, is it's a pump that rides on the truck and is integrated into the electronics of the truck itself. When we turn the key on, the pump becomes active, and using the air system that's already on the truck through a solenoid assembly, drawing air into the pump, generating pressure, spreading that grease across the truck, and then I'll show you the metering devices on how we allocate X amount of grease to each point. The advantage to you is there's no crawling up, over, on, under to lubricate the machine. The other advantage is because it's greasing when it's working, the time that the unions need grease is not when they're sitting in the shop. They need grease when there's impact and pressure and salt and sand and debris that's working into those unions, and eventually, without proper lubrication, causing wear and a potential failure. So what the autolube does, it increases safety for you and your fleet. It saves your mechanics time. A machine like this, I believe we looked, is about 60 grease points. I don't care how fast you are, you have to open and extend the machine. This is probably an hour or two job. This is our Lubecore EP0 grease pump. The reservoir, as you notice, is very clear. It's very easy to see that there is grease in the pump itself. A key feature of Lubecore's system is a top pressure plate. So underneath here is a compressed spring, and there's always constant pressure on the grease. The reason this is important is the detriment of an autolube system, the enemy of the autolube system, usually is attributed to air or dirt ingressing into the system and contaminating it. What this top follower plate does is, number one, it makes it very easy to see the level of grease in the pump. Any of your operators can come around and clearly see, yes, there's grease in it. The other thing that it does is it's constantly putting pressure internally. So outside air pressures can't ingress into the pump. The other thing you'll notice about it is we integrate a pressure gauge directly into the pump assembly itself. The controls for the pump reside here, and the advantages as an operator or mechanic can quickly run a test cycle and confirm that the pressure jumps up, and then over time the pressure should dissipate. And what that's telling us by inspecting the machine, if we see evidence of fresh grease, that the pump is able to function, generate pressure, dispense grease to the length of the machine, and from the meter device, we'll show you how to check that, be able to confirm that greasing has occurred. Things you may notice about where we choose to install it. Ideally, we want to protect the pump from road debris, flying snow, flying chunks of ice. This particular customer wanted the pump located in this location. Sometimes we might go up on top here, up where it's visible, easy to get at, easy to visually see there's grease in the system. So from the pump, there'll be one main line that's going to run around, and it's going to feed through all of these different manifolds. If you look at them closely, they physically appear to be the same size injector, but within the injector itself, there's a shim process, and they're designed to dispense known amounts of grease at intervals. So when the pump comes on pressure, each one of these is metered. Even though it physically looks the same, there is a laser inscription, so you can easily tell what the number and the corresponding dispensing volume are. But those are integrated right on the face, and we'll do a close-up to show you. But essentially what we're going to do is we're going to feed this module from a main line that comes out of the pump. All these points are going to be following the brake line around and greasing the key components of the front axle. For example, here you can see there's a slack adjuster, there's an S-cam, there's a top kingpin, there's a tie rod, there's a drag linkage. So when Nathan gets done with his install, essentially he's going to follow this air line down around like this, and we're going to be able to connect to each one of those terminal points using a brass compression fitting. And looking at some of the tubing styles that we have here, you can see that Nathan, the installer, has already pre-built these manifolds to make it easy. But one of the key concerns usually in installing an autolube system is how much space do we have to work with. an advantage of the Lubecore system. As you can see from here, we're essentially pulling 3 different potential outputs in one sheathed wrapper. It allows us for a very nice tight install. We have some space to follow along the brake line. We need to be conscientious of the tire scrub and the potential for this tire to make any impact with any tubing that we have. You know, most operators who may use a truck like this may keep it on the road from 7 to 10 years. It gets used in the very most harsh conditions. It needs to last. You know, you notice we're using a lot of brass. We're using a lot of non-reactive nylon, inert nylon that doesn't integrate or react with road salt and contaminants. We do try to strategically locate it so it's easy for a mechanic to confirm. Does he see any visible leaks here? As he's going around doing his physical inspection, is he able to confirm that there's evidence of fresh grease? There is certain unions and points on the machine that, regardless of our best efforts, you're going to have to still continue to grease manually, the steering sector, for example. But it's also a good excuse while you're doing these to do a visual inspection around to confirm that you see evidence of grease, there's no loose lines, there's no rubbing, no chafing. You know, a lot of customers, a common objection when I'm out in the field talking to people like you, and they're saying, you know, we like our mechanics to be underneath the machine and to do the inspection, and we don't want that to go away. In fact, it cannot go away. So the inspection process doesn't go away. What Autolube does is it speeds up that process. I don't have to manually do this once a week like I should, or whenever we get to it, which is not enough. We're taking better care of our equipment automatically, and then using your mechanics time to confirm that what we want to see happen is happening. So as we walk around here, you see we do mount different manifolds in different locations. And the reason we're doing that is proximity to the point that we want to lubricate itself. Sometimes on a plow truck, you'd see a belly plow. You'll notice, if Jason can show down in here, you can see there's a manifold mounted here. There's another one towards the rear. And then we obviously have some pivot points in the back. So there's a third one back there. When we work with a customer, we do provide a schematic that shows where these manifolds are mounted, as well as which points do they cover. So for example, in this assembly itself, you know, we've got 2 on this bottom stabilizer. There's another 2 on the midpoint of the stabilizer, another 2 up here. There's 4 up there. There's 2 down here. So if you're greasing this manually, from a safety perspective, somebody's got to jump up here and grease that. If they forget to put the hoist, there's another danger potential. You know, with an Autolube, this will all be covered, so there's no need to open up, step on here, crawl in here. Now, obviously, the driveline still needs to be serviced, but again, it's a good time while that is happening to inspect and make sure you're not seeing leaks or any problem issues with rubbing lines. Just like any mechanical device or machine, it does require inspection and periodic maintenance. Okay, as far as the other points that we will encompass in our going around, so on the rear tandems, we're going to be doing an S-cam and slack on each. We're going to be able to catch the box pivots. We're going to be able to catch the pivot point on the tailgate lift. Again, with Sultan, obviously this is stainless, but in the old days, steel, a lot of metals don't react very well with salt at all. So corrosion and road salt can freeze these pins. Stainless certainly helps. Does add an additional cost to the build of the truck. But again, in the steel box situation, you know, we can catch these typical points that, you know, if a stuck tailgate and you can't dump your load, it's a problem. You know. Well, everyone, thanks for your time. I hope this was a good introduction to Autolube on truck. Again, we're very interested in talking with you, hearing what your concerns are about management of your fleet and your lubrication needs, to see if we can help you make your life just a little bit easier, keep your equipment on the road longer, and have less problems. Thanks, everyone.